I guess the common challenge in all of them is to learn to really meet people where they're at, right? Meaning, I can't force them to make the change. So, at the beginning of my career as a dietitian, I was excited. I was like, yes, we're going to help you manage this blood sugar and all of that. And they're like, I don't want this. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for the
Yeah.
reminder. And even now, it's like, it's always reminding myself to meet people where they're at because they get to control their health.
Ms. Patricia Pauyo is a registered and certified diet nutritionist and CEO of her company, Pathway Nutrition LLC, who is excited to share her journey and insights to becoming a dietitian.
We can only lead the horse to the water, but we cannot force them to drink, right? And even leading them to the water sometimes can be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to let it be because they'll be ready to change when it's their time to change. And I'll be like, okay, you ready? I'll give you the information. I'll support you.
Welcome to the Refined Brew Collective. I'm your host, Ashley. This is a safe space for real conversations, thoughtful reflection, and intentional growth. So grab your coffee and let's sip, reflect, and rise together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Refined Brew Collective. I'm your host, Ashley, and today I'm joined by an incredible guest, Patricia Pauyo.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so Patricia is a registered and certified dietitian nutritionist and CEO of Pathway Nutrition LLC. She's a trilingual professional with a background in social work and a master's in nutritional and health science. She's also a Dean's List scholar and a member of the Phi Alpha Society. Her work beautifully blends clinical expertise, cultural understanding, and compassionate leadership. Here at the Refined Brew Collective, we love to give our guests their flowers while they are alive and thriving. So everyone, let's give Patricia her flowers.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Mhm.
So for listeners who may not be familiar, I want to briefly set the stage on what a registered dietitian actually does. Registered dietitian nutritionists have the skills to improve patient health outcomes through strategic application of medical nutritional therapy. They provide medical nutritional therapy for conditions like diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, and digestive disorders. So, when did you decide that you wanted to become a registered dietitian and why?
So I kind of fell into nutrition by accident, but it was the perfect accident because, like you said, I studied social work in undergrad, right? Because I always had a passion for helping people, empowering people to be their best self, right? And then after graduating, I was like, let's pause at the social work route because I see how, how it can go down, and I don't want that. And so I decided to do a year of service that turned into 3 years of, being away from work really. So I moved to Florida. I was doing a bunch of things. And I had a roommate at the time who was like, oh, because of the holiday, a New Year resolution back then was like, oh, let's go vegan. And I was like, sure, fine, why not? This
Kudos to
Asian
you. That's
girl,
amazing. Yeah.
right? This Asian girl that loves to eat, want to go vegan. So anyway, it lasted a couple of weeks. And then I
Mhm.
was like, I'm in Florida. I like seafood. I don't want to just be vegan fully. So I kept up with mostly eating seafood and a plant-based diet. And during that time, I was doing research about healthy eating, what it is to be vegan, and all those documentaries on Netflix. Then I got me interested into nutrition. A few years later, I moved back to New York and I was working in an office where everybody was kind of also on the same path. They were trying to eat healthier, practicing vegan somewhat. And then I used to have a lot of conversation and sharing what I learned about, with them. And somebody was like, oh, you should become a nutritionist. I was like, that's a thing? What is that?
Mhm.
So I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then within a couple of months, I signed up for my first class on my path to become a dietitian. So that's really how I fell into it. And during school, I realized it's an important career path, and it's really helping me with my original goal of helping people because research shows that like people of color are at higher risk for so many chronic conditions, like my family included being impacted by it. So it was a great combination for my social work skills with nutrition. So I was like, it's a good choice. And here I am.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So now that you've mentioned your family, I did want to dig a little deeper in regards to that. Your did your Caribbean and family background influence your decision in any way, in addition to
Um,
what you've already shared?
It definitely reinforced it because when I started learning about how food really impacts our health, I noticed, I started noticing how my parents were eating, or even my grandmother when she was alive, how in her older age, how nutrition was helping her staying, as healthy as possible, right? So it definitely enforced it. I mean, my mom wanted me to be a nurse, but I was like, nah, I'm not gonna go to nursing school.
I
She
know.
so
I
but
know.
it's so funny. It's so funny because I had to give her flowers because
Hmm.
when I was studying social work, they really were not for it because it's a very, hard career, right? And they were like, you only need to find something that gives you money and all of that thing. And
Hmm.
she was pushing for me to become a nurse. She was like, I have a dream that, you had a white lab coat on and everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
Look at I had to tell her when I studied, like when I had to do my internship for nutrition, I was like, I'm wearing a lab coat. It's white. Is that the dream you had?
Okay, she was going somewhere.
She was
Okay, I love
onto
that.
something.
Yeah.
It may not have been nursing, but I work closely to nurses, and if
Hmm.
I'm in the hospital, I'm wearing like white lab coat. So yeah, you
Yeah.
saw it.
Oh, that's beautiful. When the Haitians premonitions come to pass,
Yes,
it's a
they be
beautiful thing.
knowing. This is why I'm like, okay, mothers.
We don't always want to listen at first,
Yes,
but
we don't want
then
to listen.
it just like it eventually happens in some
Hmm.
way. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah,
for
sure,
me
right.
personally, I resonate with the not wanting to go into nursing. I just didn't like science. So I was just like, yeah, this is not for me, but everything worked out the way it needed to.
Science is not for me. But then when I was considering nutrition and I was like, all the science classes, I was like, are we gonna do this now, Patricia? Like, and I was like,
Hmm.
see, you're older now, you can study, you can focus, and this is something that you seem to be interested in. So go for it. So it worked
Yeah,
out.
that's beautiful. So I wanted to touch a little bit more on the social work. What originally drew you to that field?
So, like I said, I've always wanted to help people. And again, I was inspired by random things to pick social work. Like I was watching a TV show. Um, I think it was called Saving Amy. I think the mother, I don't remember watching the full show, but parts of it, right?
Mhm,
And the mother in that show was a social worker. And I don't remember the exact episode, but there was an episode where she got a family together and was the hero and all of that. And I was like, oh, this is good. Like, to help people, get their life together for lack of a better word, just really empower them and support them, right?
mhm.
I was like, I always wanted to help people. Even when I was younger, I wanted to be a nun because I saw the nun in my community like do things for the community. So I was like, oh, social work is a good way to go about it. So that's really what inspired me or convinced me to pursue social work. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like, talking to people, helping them with their mindset. So yeah,
Well, I feel like now in what you do, you're able to incorporate that.
definitely. It's so key because while studying nutrition, I had like one class about nutrition counseling to really help to teach people to like talk to people. But I was like, this is not even enough because in private practice, all I do is counseling. So all those skills came from my social work background. And my professor
Mhm.
even said that she was like telling me, I mean, I was a tough student in that class because I was like talking about all the counseling skills I learned, and everybody else was just like, no, it wasn't like people were able to grasp it, but it's still like scratching the surface to really understand how to talk to people. So it's definitely needed now.
I love that. Okay, so a part of that journey was interning at the Haitian American Cultural Social Organization. How did that impact you as a first generation immigrant from Haiti?
So with my family, I don't know, for a long time, it's been a practice for me to like always give back in a sense. I volunteered even before, like while I was in college and all of that. So during that internship, it was during like when TPS and like after the earthquake, people were coming and trying to get support and resources for them to have a life here, right? So it really helped me understand how Haitian people and other immigrants can be very resilient and prideful, not in a bad way, but we're not gonna go ask for help. So
Mhm.
that was definitely a challenging part to really help them realize that we have these resources for them and make sure that they're safe because there's always that fear of deportation and all of that, right?
Mhm.
And being able to make somebody feel safe enough to let me know what they need help with, and so that way I could have connected them with their resources. So it was definitely an impactful like part of my journey in this career. I do not take it for granted. It really gave me a better understanding on that my population and how they receive resources and services. So even now as a dietitian trying to tell my older generation and how to come for nutrition counseling, I'm like, okay, it's the same thing. Y'all don't want it.
I understand. Would you want to, in the future, work with them again?
Yes, I mean I still work. What do you mean, like the organization or?
Yeah.
I do. So since I've been back in Rockland, I've had a goal to like go back and provide nutrition counseling or partner with them, do some form of workshops.
Mhm.
It's been on my project list for a while now. But yeah, I would love to go back and you know, provide the current services that I have now and see how I can, because it's a space where people are already coming, right, for other services and can make it more accessible to them. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to go back. It'll be a full circle moment.
It would. So, can you share a moment where you thought maybe this isn't for me and what made you push through?
Like as a dietitian, right?
Yes.
There are many moments in school because there's only 3% of dietitians that are Black.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, although I was in a I went to Brooklyn College, which is very diverse, the nutrition field was not as diverse. It was maybe like two or three people in my class that were, people of color. So it felt isolating at times, right? And even worse, doing my internship to become a dietitian in a cohort of about 20, 25 people, there were two of us, and we were separated like in two different cohorts. So, um, the institutional racism or even like other classmates, not being very welcoming in a sense. I was like, at my big age, at the time I was like what, 20s, 35, like 30 something. I was like, why are we doing this? So there were times where I was like, I've made it this far. We both ended up in this same location because it's very strenuous. We have to pass all the exam. We have to get accepted to these programs. So reminding myself of that made me realize how, yes, I'm in this right space. And I've already learned from many clients, well, people I've worked with before, people of color, they were tired of somebody random telling me to eat kale and quinoa. And I was like, oh, I cannot give up at this point because I know people want to hear true nutrition information that respects their culture from somebody who understands their culture, right? So those are the things that pushed me through. I was like, we're going to get this private practice, we're going to get this degree, and we're going to get to help the people that we want to work with. So, yeah.
It's so beautiful, and it's so vital now. Because the way that we were raised, it's like our parents are healthy. At least like they try to be healthy with how they eat. Like my mom, she always has fruits in the house. She loves to eat fruit. She cooks as healthy as she can within the culture that we're in because I'm Haitian as well. But there's always a way that you can do better and improve health wise,
Yeah.
especially if it impacts you, or you have something in your family.
Yeah. If you have family history or like, yes, even our cooking methods in general, like the Haitian culture, like there are things that can be changed, right? Like maybe we do need to fry less food, but we have a lot, if not all our ingredients are healthy and nutritious, right? So
Hmm.
more nutritious than I would say some other some other cultures, right? So
Yeah.
but then there's this blanket statement like, "Oh, Haitian food is not healthy." I was like, "No, that is not true." Or even like soul food. I saw a Instagram post earlier today, and I was like, "Yes, even soul food. It has a lot of nutritious ingredients in it. Yes, we might need to cook things in a different way or like, change certain ingredients, but we cannot just put a blanket statement and just say these, we don't have healthy foods. That's not fair to us because the supplement industry and the diet industry then gets to thrive. So I'm here to see them fall down.
Do what you got to do, make your impact. You shared behind why you chose this path and moments that tested you. Now, I'd love to talk about the work itself, the education, the research, and the expertise you've built that shaped you into becoming the registered dietitian you are today. So, what are some of your favorite courses or topics during your nutritional program?
Oh, the first two that comes to mind, one was the counseling because I was like, I got this.
Mhm.
The second one was definitely what was it called? It's a food lab where every week we got to cook meals from different cultures.
Oh,
So
that's
we
cool.
went from all over the globe. We were cooking Haitian food, Hispanic food, Asian food, like, South Asian, all of it, Mediterranean dish. And I tell you, those days when I didn't have to bring lunch and I knew I was going to eat good,
Hmm.
that was one of my favorite class, and it really helped me understand so many of the cultures and how they eat and how their foods are nutritious and healthy as well. So yeah, and I love that teacher too. So she made that class fun. So yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. Can I think of anything else? I mean, I also enjoyed the science and how food, act in our body, like absorption of foods. Although those classes were hard, but it was very interesting to learn about like the Krebs cycle, how digestion happens, and how we get energy. So yeah, they were like maybe second or third choices. So yeah.
So, research played a big role in your training. You worked on studies focused on obesity, type 2 diabetes, diet, and acculturation in Black, Caribbean, and African immigrant families.
Mhm.
Can you share a high level summary of what you found?
Um. So that was my thesis paper. One of the things that we were trying to show is like how people went back to like the trend of clean food. Clean food
Hmm.
for Caribbean and African population meant like going back to the roots, like the dirtiest food, as in like going back to root vegetables, going back to things that from the soil, not like the clean food that nobody can really define now, right? So
Hmm.
it was interesting to look how the movement of people leaving their home country, coming to America, and having to, after years living in America, having that strong desire to go back to their cultural foods, right? And it's interesting to look at it through different generation because the older generation probably still kept those cultures as much as possible. Then like the newer generation, like let's say the kids that were born here who grew up on like the American type of foods that were more processed. It's not until they become older they'll be like, "Oh, I need to go back to eating the way that my parents were eating, even though I didn't
Hmm.
want it back then." So it was really interesting to see that transition, right? Because when people become more health conscious, we do have the healthy foods that we just need to learn to eat, in a healthy way.
So, with that, you also mentioned a shift in nutritional habits.
Mhm.
So, would you say that it's not necessarily just people that are around our age? Would you say it's college students as well and immigrant families over time?
Um, Yeah, no, it's immigrant families over time, right? If you see the transition of like the older, like the grandparents, the parents, and then, the younger generation. Yeah, it's a cycle that happens, right? Because let's say our parents' generation, like if they came with their parents, they were still having like both. They had to rely on the more processed foods because they probably were busier trying to work and doing all those things and
Hmm.
still, enjoying their cultural food. So they may have a good mix of it, and then like the
Hmm.
youngest generation that grew up here that is not as attached to the culture and the cultural foods, when they're
Hmm.
getting older, they're realizing, oh, we need to go back, right? So they're realizing, oh, the healthy foods, all the foods from back home, right? So yeah, it's definitely a cycle, and it's really interesting to see. And we also were seeing how with acculturation, how American culture is impacting food even back home because even foods back home now you can find American food back there. Things are being exported back there or imported there all the time. So even that's shifting.
Okay. So, what are some common misconceptions people have about registered dietitians?
So many. They think we're the food police. They think that we're gonna just take all your good food away. They think we just provide meal plans. What are those other ones? They think we just sell some supplement. Oh, and they think nutritionists and dietitians are the same. So and I'm like, no. There's a big difference there. Yeah, we're not the food police. We just want you to eat healthy. Most of us who are really um helping you with your health are not promoting supplements as the first choice. Yeah, the registered dietitian and nutritionist can
Mhm,
be very different people. Like you were saying in the beginning, a registered dietitian, yes, they're nutritionists because they study nutrition, but they also went to school. They understand how it works in the body. They have licenses. Anybody can call themselves a nutritionist. So it
mhm,
doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have an education, but the extent to their education, we really want to find out, right?
mhm.
Um, because somebody selling sea moss down the street can call themselves a nutritionist. And I don't think you want to get their education about nutrition from them necessarily, because that's how misinformation keeps being spread. And that's how, you know, the supplement industry and the diet industry keeps thriving because of things like that.
What would you say are other ways to improve their health?
So it's not that supplements are bad. I don't want to say that. It's just, it's not the first choice for most people. Some people
Mhm,
are deficient and need supplements, and we can only know that deficiency through doing some blood work and having a thorough nutrition assessment, right? But I see supplements as like decorations, like the sprinkle on the cake, right? So that means we need to have a delicious cake first, right? But how I've seen most of us using supplement is like we're just gonna have sprinkles and no cake, right?
mhm.
So I'm like, can we make sure that we're eating whole foods? Can we make sure that we're eating balanced food, lots of fruits and veggies, make sure that you're exercising and all of that, having a healthy lifestyle. And then as you're having that strong foundation of that actual delicious cake, yes, we can need some additional support with supplements. That's how I see supplement and recommend them. I'm not saying they're bad because again, when you reach a certain age, your body like doesn't really absorb foods the same way. Certain people definitely need a supplement, but for that, it's still on an individual basis, looking at what they have or what they need to recommend to them. So if somebody's taking supplements mostly and their diet is looking upside down, I'll say just stop it all and go see a dietitian to figure out what you need to do.
Agreed. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about dieting and wellness in general?
Misconception. I think people still think that it's like it's gonna solve all their problems, right? One thing I've known, but I've been seeing more in people that are like I'm working with, or even my colleagues when we talk about it. Often when there's a lot going on in life, and we feel like we don't have a sense of control, the first thing that people try to control is their food, right? They want to go on a diet or they want to do something extreme with their exercise, 75 hard every 3 weeks, something. And sometimes, well, with my work, it's nutrition counseling that I do, where it's like, yes, we're going to talk about food, but we're going to talk about your whole life. Because if there's other stressors in your life that we're not addressing, making sure that you're eating a salad is not gonna do anything for you, right? So I guess the misconception is that people think that it's often going to solve their problem. Like, oh yes, when I lose the 10 pounds, I'm gonna be confident and my partner's gonna love me. Or when I lose this, my mother-in-law's gonna stop nagging, or I'm gonna be able to get that job. And I'm like, maybe, or mostly maybe not, right? So, yeah. And I know it can feel like it's a lot to do to learn to eat healthier, learn to find a routine with your sleep or with your hydration or with your exercise. But, learning to prioritize yourself and loving yourself, it's going to make those things easier for you to do because that's how you do it.
I agree. Personally, for me, I started my health journey, I want to say like 7 to 8 years ago, and it was a struggle, but I learned over time that I just didn't want to continue to be the way that I was. I'm breathing hard to go up the stairs. And
Yeah.
then, when you go to the doctors and they're just kind of like, slightly suggesting like, maybe you can shed a few pounds, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
you can only hear the same thing so many times before you take that initiative to do it yourself. Really enjoy the process of like trying different foods and learning just like to be a better version of myself overall.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. No, I was gonna say, like, I wish more people understand that and know that yes, everything is hard until we learn how to do it. Walking
Yeah.
was hard for all of us. We were falling, stumbling. Sometimes
Right.
we are afraid of hard things. And I'm like, no, it's only hard because we haven't figured out how to do it yet. So let's be excited about learning how to do it. Because then it's gonna become easy.
Exactly. The only thing for me that I felt was just a little bit more of a struggle was having to adapt to different food portion sizes, especially in a Caribbean household.
Mhm.
Because when I was younger, my mom and grandma, they throw down when it comes to the kitchen, right? So I would fill my plate up. And then maybe 8 years ago, I was just like, you know what? Let me just try to take a portion of that and see how that goes gradually. My mom just didn't understand because she's just so used to me eating so much. So she's like, "Oh, muse yo sudaya ko niya. Mabeze ki mo ko." I'm like, "Oh, like I just want to be more healthy." So I feel like she's gotten used to it over time. It is certainly a struggle sometimes because when you have that tasso and you have that fried bun and you're just like, "We get 2, 3 more," but.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a struggle in that sense because I remember when I tried being vegan, right? And I
Mhm.
came back home to tell my mom, I don't want this chicken or I don't want, can you make something else for me? They're like, are you brainwashed? What's happening? I'm
Right.
gonna blend this chicken in some sauce pot and you're gonna have it. But then eventually they learn from us, right? So now my mom is eating vegetables. She's calling me all the time to say, look at my plate, look at what I'm doing. And I was like, okay.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. Same here.
Yes.
She now understands and like accepts like, okay, they're not going to eat the same way, but I'll still like make sure I'm cooking the same way, making sure that she's doing what she needs to do on her end to ensure that it's not going to impact us in the long run.
Yeah, yeah.
I love when we can
Yeah.
inspire our parents.
They eventually, no matter how stubborn, they learn from us. They see.
So your education laid a powerful foundation, but the real impact happens when theory meets people. You've worked across diabetes, renal, cardiovascular, GI, obesity, and surgical care. Which area challenged you the most?
It's a good question. They all come with their different challenges. I guess the common challenge in all of them is to learn to really meet people where they're at, right? Meaning, I can't force them to make the change. So at the beginning of my career as a dietitian, I was excited. I was like, yes, we're going to help you manage this blood sugar and all of that. And they're like, I don't want this. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for the reminder. And so, and even now, it's like, it's always reminding myself to meet people where they at because they get to control their health, right? Even we can only lead the horse to the water, but we cannot force them to drink, right? And even leading them to the water sometimes can be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes we just have to like, okay, let it be because they'll be ready to change when it's their time to change. And I'll be like, okay, you ready? I'll give you the information. I'll support you. So I think that's been my most challenge in general in my career as a dietitian.
So, what led you to specialize further in renal dialysis?
So for my internship, so in my internship, like we did a little bit of everything, right? So that way we can figure out.
Mhm.
I have to say, I did renal because one, it paid more, but two, because in the clinical setting, it was the one area where I really got to do in-depth counseling, which I really enjoyed. Like I always knew I wanted to be in private practice, but in renal, working on with people on dialysis, I get to see them multiple times during the week, like 3 times a week. And we talk about their health and their nutrition on a regular basis. So I really got to see them progress and support them and create space for them and provide them the education, which is what I really enjoy doing. Versus like in the hospital when somebody comes because they had acute diabetes ketoacidosis, like their blood sugar is extremely high. Okay, yes, we talk, but like it doesn't mean that I'm gonna follow up with them and see how they are progressing. Often, what I would see is like the revolving door. Like they'll come back within a couple of weeks because they didn't have that support, somebody to follow up with. And even if we give them resources and say, oh, go talk to this person, the chances of them doing it are not always there. Again, meeting the person where they're at. So in a selfish way, I really enjoyed following up with my patients and seeing seeing them progress. So that's why I pick working with people on dialysis. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
Based on what you said earlier, how do you navigate cultural food practices when working with patients from different backgrounds?
The simplest thing is asking them for them to teach me about their
Mhm.
culture. Because yes, I may know some information or I can Google things, but I always ask people to tell me more about like in their diet recall, so that way I can understand why they eat the way that they eat. And don't come as if like, oh, I know X culture or you get. I don't generalize. Even so, two people, let's say, I'll just use Haitian culture. Two people in the Haitian culture prepare their foods or eat different ways. So even though I'm Haitian, I don't know everything about how somebody eats. So I remain curious. I always am open because I enjoy different cultural foods anyway. So I'm like, tell me so that way I can go try it myself as well. So I remain curious and open to learn more from the client or the patient about what they're eating.
That's really nice.
And
So, you also work at a food bank. What inspired that, and what are you learning from that experience?
oh, so yeah, my new job. So I ended up started volunteering at this food bank last year when with the current administration, we learned about how SNAP's fundings were cut. And I was looking to find ways to do what I can to support people, right? So I looked up in my area, like, where's the food bank? So that at first I was just gonna make some donations, right? And then when I walked in there, I was like, oh, do you guys need people to actually help out? So I started going there twice a week, delivering food to people that couldn't come and pick it up because they also have like emergency food bags and things like that, but also helping in-house in the pantry. And then they just so happened to have like this position that they were hiring for, which at first I was like, no, I'm just here to volunteer. I don't want to. But then I was like, okay, sure, why not? In this new role, what I'm learning now is really about how policies is affecting people and access to food, right? A lot of my work so far has been like direct patient care, but now I studied about policy and in school, but I haven't really worked in that space. So now there's a lot of that, which I'm excited to learn more about, especially with the new guidelines that came out, how organizations who are providing food to people are making sure that they adhere to it, or the good part of it. So yeah, and that's really what I'm learning about now, and I'm enjoying it.
Do you feel like there's more that could be done in school, like middle school and college, in regards to implementing or having more dietitians there to
Yeah.
support the students?
Yes, for sure. It's definitely because I was thinking like when I was in high school, even when I went to the nursing office, there was no dietitian. I don't think I ever met a dietitian in high school. And when I was doing my internship, I was like part of my internship, I was on a college campus as the college dietitian and I saw people there. So I guess some colleges have that implemented, but it's not all of them. And some colleges, like, with the foods that they have, in the cafeteria for people, maybe they may have more options and more balance, right? But yeah, there's a lot more that we can do, especially teaching younger kids to about fruits and vegetables. Because we know that they spend most of their time in the school, right? Like 8 hours, however many hours. That's a great place to teach them about what healthy eating looks like. Because I still remember when I watched those old documentaries from Netflix when some kids didn't know how to recognize certain fruits and veggies. They didn't know what it was. Or they think that it only comes in a certain color because that's what you see in the coloring books, right?
Mhm.
And it's really sad to see. So all over the country, we need to do so much better with providing people with education and access to healthy foods.
I agree. I feel like when I was younger, I don't remember what age, but I do remember like learning about the food pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's to the extent of it. And then other than that, it was just like, fitness classes that they would offer or recess, throughout the years. So I do agree in the sense that I feel like it's important that they try to implement that more because people in general do really need that, especially young children. If you can help them while they're young, it could like greatly impact them in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember I was working with the Department of Health for a couple of summers where we were doing nutrition education. Part of my job was they were doing nutrition education at the farmers market with the parents, but I was with the daycare in the daycare where I was making recipes for the kids to try beets and watermelon and teaching them about it. But also part of it will also teach the parents as well. Yeah, and with that same goal in mind, we're starting at the root, starting when they're young, so that way they can grow up around, knowing these foods, right? So it's key. So we'll see how we can continue that work now that I'm gonna, I'm doing policy work now in a sense. I can see how it's being impacted, but yeah, we have a long way to go.
All in due time. So at some point, your mission expanded beyond working within systems to build something of your own. What inspired you to create Pathway Nutrition LLC? And what does the name represent?
Great question. So I always knew I wanted to be in private practice. Even when I was studying social work, I was like, I'm either going to be a school social worker so I could have my summers off, or I could have my private practice. So that's always been the goal. So even when I became licensed and became a dietitian, passed my board exam, within like a year or a few months, I signed up for my LLC and started the foundation. So as I was working, I've been slowly building it until recently I was like, let's go full time. So what inspired me, and kind of same with my purpose as a social worker, or like my desires is really to help people be the healthiest version that they can be, providing them with access to nutrition education, because it shouldn't only be for the privileged people, right?
Mhm.
Because we are the ones that are mostly affected by the lack of nutrition, the lack of access to food. So that has really been like my motivation behind it. I was like, I'm gonna help people and even grow my practice into a whole wellness center. I want to make it accessible for people to have good health, access like from their doctors. So you go to the doctor and they tell you about your labs. You don't have to go far. Right there, you can see a dietitian. You need to learn about exercising. Right there, you can find your personal trainer. I want to really make it like a one-stop shop because I know one way we lose people is having for them to like go to do a next step, call
Mhm.
somebody. And then I'm like, oh no, let's kind of reduce those barriers, make it easier for you to have everything in one stop. So that's a goal.
It's amazing. I'm excited to see that expansion growing in real time.
Thank you. Me too. I don't know how long, but we're gonna make it happen.
Yes, yeah, it will happen. So, what advice would you give to aspiring dietitians who want to open their own private practice?
Get support, get help, because it's very complicated. And I guess from my experience, I studied like now have shifted, but there was a time or period where people were not very open with sharing their process, so that way people can figure out what to do. Which is why when especially dietitian of color come and ask me, I'm like, I'm gonna tell you everything I know because we have to make it easier, pass it forward. So
Mhm.
if somebody wants to open their private practice, get support, get help. That's one good thing that has changed over the years is that there has been more support available, especially for dietitian of color. There have been organizations that has helped me, like Diversified Dietetics, crucial in like providing support to aspiring dietitians of color to make sure that they have, tools and access along the journey because it's still only 3% of us that are that are out there. So and it's a very expensive career to like get into. Like there's a lot of investment that you have to do ahead of time, which I can understand why there's only 3% of us, right? Because you can't spend money before you make the money. So
Mhm.
yeah.
But it's always worth it at the end.
Yes, after all the sweat and it is worth it. Yeah.
Do you plan to expand into cookbooks, additional community programs, or digital education?
Um, I never thought about a cookbook because I enjoy cooking, but not the way I see these other ladies making recipes. But never say never, right? I think my expansion, I'm thinking more about doing more community type of work, maybe with my private practice, like creating some self-learning tools, like recording some videos for people. But it might even start with just hiring other dietitians in my private practice and growing that first. So that's the first goal. And then these other things. So yeah. But I'm always doing like workshops now. So you'll see me in the community more.
Very nice. Speaking of workshops, are there any upcoming workshops, corporate wellness events, or virtual sessions where people can find you?
So I have a couple of workshops coming up with my local library. One is in February and the other one in March. Those are the two for now. I'm working on securing other ones. I always have virtual sessions. I try to do more Instagram live or social media lives, but with my private practice, I'm taking new clients. So if somebody needs nutrition counseling, they can definitely um, contact me for that. Honest event is still in the works. I like attending more. Hopefully, I'll be in some panel discussion this year with some of these wellness events happening.
I was just about to say that I can see you doing that. That'd be
I
really
want
cool.
to. There were a
Yeah.
couple of them that I attended last year, and I connected with the organizer. I was like, "You need to have me on your panel." So we'll see what this
Yeah.
year holds.
Let me know. I would love to attend. So now I want to zoom out and talk about purpose and the bigger picture. What keeps you motivated on the hard days?
What keeps me motivated? My mission and really having a goal to help the statistics go the positive way, because it's predicted that like over 50% of people will have diabetes 2050. So we need to change that. Like half of the
Yeah.
population cannot be affected by these things. So yeah, reminding myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing, the people that are benefiting for it, especially these busy professionals trying to create amazing, doing amazing work. It's like, yeah, you can be working so hard and burning out because you're not prioritizing your health, right? So those things keep me going.
Do you have any other long-term career goals?
The only one is making that wellness center a reality.
So, how do you see AI and technology shaping the future of nutritional care?
So it gets more complicated now because people think that they can just go to AI or Google a meal plan or other random things, which
Mhm.
there's a support that's provided there. But when you have this meal plan now and you can't follow it because life is chaotic or things are happening, AI is not going to be able to help you with that, right? So you still need somebody who can help you implement actual sustainable habits. So I just hope people realize that, because yeah, people are gonna go and explore. And it's a tool that can be used, but it shouldn't be a replacement for working with a dietitian. Because AI cannot tell you why your blood sugar is doing XYZ or why your cholesterol is high. It cannot do that. It cannot help you create those habits. So many times I even go on there, I'm like, I'm procrastinating, help me stop this. It tells me the things I already know, but I'm not doing. I need to have somebody else really help me navigate what's going on with me, right? So those things AI cannot do. So it's a tool, just like Google was a tool, just like all these books are tools, but some people really need to have a dietitian involved, especially in the hospital. So please.
So, in regards to education and the master's program, what are some lessons or things that you wish you would have known or could have done differently that you would hope for students to do now?
I wish I knew how expensive it was going to be, because I think I was in my excitement. I remember doing orientation. There was a professor that came that was like, "Oh, I think they said a number," and they're like, "Oh, if you don't think you can do this, just walk out now." I think her delivery of it was just like wrong, but also I was like too excited about like doing this that I wasn't really things was not really lending
Yeah.
until I was like 3 years in. I was like, oh wait, so this internship that I have to pay for myself.
Really?
Yeah. That's why. So that's why a lot of people don't become a registered dietitian, because after your years of schooling, you have to pay to do a full year of internship where like you're working full time and not getting paid. For a lot of people, that is a barrier, right? So how you
Yeah.
gonna pay your rent, how you gonna feed yourself, yeah,
And it's 1,200 hours, right? That you
1,200
have to accrue?
hours.
Yeah.
They've created programs now where like they are more affordable, but now those become, more difficult to get in.
Hmm.
But it's another like 20K to be able to do a dietetic internship. And some people have just used credit cards to pay it off. I was able to make sure I get into a program that was attached to a school. So I was able to get more student loans to pay for it. But most of them are not through a school. So you basically have to find somebody to sponsor you, do a GoFundMe, apply for some scholarships, get somebody else to pay for it in a sense, Yeah. So that is the most challenging part in becoming a registered dietitian. And I hope that one day that process changes because a lot of these skills can be learned while you're in school. There's so many other ways to go about it. So that's a mission when I'm in my 50s and I'm retired. I used to say I'm going to become like a president of the Nutrition Academy so I could change things like that.
And you still can. You still can.
I still can. But I was like, I deviated from like all this like, policy, but I'm back into it. We'll see. We'll see.
So another question in regards to school, what are some ways that you helped yourself feel more accustomed to your environment, being one of the few people of color?
Definitely finding people that you can trust. Like, so the few people of color in the class were like, we were supporting each other, studying, and encouraging each other to keep going. And not to say that there weren't people that were outside from our culture that were, they were also, some of them were also a resource, right? So
Mhm.
it's really putting yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone to ask for help when needed. Many of your professors are there for you to see you succeed. So making sure you find a good mentor. Um, yeah. And I feel like people that have gone through the and people of color, like, other dietitians of color who understand how hard the process is, often are more open to provide support to upcoming dietitians. So yeah, not all of them, of course, but most of them are. I'm one of them that will like, if somebody comes to me and needs some guidance, I'm like, I don't know everything, but I'll help as much as I can. So yeah.
I think that's really important. And I'm sure the future dietitians who are looking into going into those type of programs are very grateful to have you.
Thank you.
So what is one message you hope listeners take away from your journey?
I hope that people realize that it is crucial to prioritize their health and well-being as they are trying to take over the world in whatever that they're doing, right? Health is wealth, and although the journey can be very difficult and challenging, with having the right support, you can definitely do it. So health is wealth. Prioritize your health.
So where can people connect with you?
So several ways. I am on social media, trying to be more active on there so people can follow me. My Instagram is Caribbean.lifestyle.dietitian. I also have one for my business, Patricia Nutrition LLC. And then can also go on my website to find more about what I do, which is Pathway Nutrition LLC. Yeah, that's how people can connect with me. Oh, I just remember the question you asked me.
You could say
What was
it.
the meaning of Pathway Nutrition? So I chose that name because two things. One, it was a play on my name, Patricia, and sometimes they call me Pat. I didn't want my business to have my name because as I hire other people, I don't want to be the sole face of it. So that's
Mhm.
part of it. But also really because there's so many ways people can go about becoming healthy, their healthiest self, right? So there's no one right way. There are many ways that are not sustainable that we don't want to go down. But, my way of being healthy, like my journey may look very different to the next person, right? So I think that's why the pathway kind of made sense to me. Many, many ways to get to your desired health goals.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
So before we wrap up, we end every episode of the Refined Brew Collective with this question. What does living a refined life mean to you right now?
Living a refined life. A refined life. I guess it's for me, I would say it's really prioritizing the things that I want to do because like many of my clients, I'm a busy professional building business and things like that. And one thing I always said is like I don't care how long it takes me to be successful in this business. I will take that time because I will not sacrifice my health. So I'm still going to sleep at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock the latest. So a refined life involves like making sure I still honor my body, take care of it, and do the things I enjoy doing. Enjoy the food I enjoy eating. Enjoy moving my body the way I want to and explore. That's what I would say.
Merci, Patricia, for joining me today.
Talk about, like I said, I'm honored and thank you for creating space for me to be able to talk about that. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing this moment with me on the Refined Brew Collective. If today's conversation poured into you, take a moment to reflect and pass it along to someone who needs it. Until next time, sip slowly, reflect deeply, and rise intentionally.